Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry, I'm just putting my phone on airplane mode. So my brothers and sisters, Jazakumullah khair, thank you so much for coming out today, again supporting this cause, supporting such an important discussion that we have. We know that as a ummah, we are facing a lot of items, a lot of travesties, and a lot of situations which are mind-boggling, unfathomable. But with today's discussion, I want to focus on rising beyond our adversity, rising beyond the challenges that we see, and also utilizing the challenges in our favor, and how we grow ourselves through what we experience. May it be from the macro level on the ummah on a global scale, or may it be a micro level of the ummah, meaning you and your nucleus family. It is important for us to know that our deen is one of hope. And today I want to hit on three topics. One of them is what I spoke on yesterday, and the last of the third topics is the most important. So my brothers and sisters, when we see what is transpiring around the world, we have seen how Muslims have become resilient in reference of their action, in reference of their immobilization and mobilization, in reference of how they are taking people to account. When we see our cousins from the other faith, that they were persecuted for over 2,000 years, it's through that persecution that they understood in how to hone the skill so that they are not persecuted no more. And we need to learn from these things. When it comes to us as a community, I see that there's been so much growth when it comes over the last many years, but in particular now. I remember a speech of Imam Zaid Shakir years ago, and he said that when 9/11 happened and the Muslims went to the NAACP and they said that we need your help. I believe it was Reverend Jesse Jackson. He said, where were you when we needed your help? Because we as a Muslim community were so disengaged from the political fabric, from societal connection, that we isolated and siloed ourselves from what the mainstream was. And then people looked at us as the other. But now that we see that we have been re-engaged, we have Muslim politicians and we also have Muslim staffers. But in addition to that, we have people who are mobilizing the vote, who are mobilizing the youth, who are mobilizing the community. And this is what adversity does. It brings out the best in us in the times that are the most challenging to the ummah. And as I said yesterday, we are 7% of this country's population. We now hold a critical mass in deciding elections. It may not be this election, but when they see what our vote does, our vote put 20 MPs in to the Parliament Hill, 20 MPs. We are not chump change no more, my brothers and sisters. We hold influence that we didn't have before. And not only that, we are a community that does not only vote or does not only push on mandates that benefit the Muslim community themselves, but we push our MPs on things which are fair and equitable for humanity at large, because that is the Muslim way of things that we do. And adversity bubbles that up and showcases them that what we can do. When the Spanish Inquisition was taking place, when Ferdinand and Isabel was putting Muslims, Unitarian Christians, and Jews to the stake, what happened? Sultan Bayezid II, he sent a ship of mercy. And for whom? He sent a ship of mercy for the Jews of Andalus. And when his vizier asked him, they said, "Ya Amir, why are you doing that?" He said, "Because there is no such thing as a society without Jews, and they'll find peace in my empire." So not only was the Ottoman Caliphate repatriating Muslims from Al-Andalus, we were repatriating people of other faiths from Andalus. because we rise to the occasion and we show the beauty of what our faith is and who we are and what we stand for, my brothers and sisters. And also, when we see the political spectrum as well in what's transpiring, as Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, Malcolm X said, that it is in these times you understand who is the wolf and who is the fox. And he said, I would choose the wolf because I know where I stand in reference of them. It's the fox who I have a problem with because they say they're your friends, but they stab you in the back. And this is where our political maturation has taken place, that we ain't falling for these games no more. We ain't fools. You can't fool us like that. You can't hoodwink us like that. You can't put cloak over our eyes and think that we're gonna fall for these games now. You put us last and you think we're gonna put you first? It ain't work like that no more. And this is what these situations bring out and rise our community with. My second point, my brothers and sisters, is that through adversity, it also stimulates change in wanting to be independent. And one of the core fundamentals of changing a scenario or a changing of a Western-centric orientation is having economic strength. And when we showcase to the communities and to the countries that we live in that we have economic strength, it also plays a role in political positioning. It is a symbiotic relationship, and this is something that is very important. My brothers and sisters, we showcase with this genocide that we will not show patronage to the golden arches. We will not show patronage to the mermaid coffee that has the green logo. And what did that result in? It resulted them in historical losses. Our money, our economic strengths, where we reallocate our funds matter. And how we showcase that we will not be bought by a cheap cup of coffee or by garbage fast food, that we can survive without any of this type of trash. This is then what puts us on a stronger footing. And economic strength is so important. Repatriating our money to other alternatives like salam cola, like other aspects, like local produce, like local businesses, irrespective of if they're Muslim or not. This is how we show that change. I was at an Islamic finance conference in Bahrain just almost a year ago. We went by, when I would drive by, every Starbucks was empty. Literally everyone was empty. In fact, the people would start looking at the people in Starbucks, if there was one person in, and start giving them the stink eye. And this was in other type of chains, because they have recognized, and remember one thing, what the government does and what the people want, those are two different things. The will of the people, many a times, is not followed by the government. And make sure that we understand that distinction. By what societies and leaders may do does not mean that that's what the masses want. And it's an important distinction. One of the things as well, when I was discussing with my associates for Islamic banking and finance, I said, look, man, and there's a group of us, when this genocide started, I said, fine, you have companies that meet, quote unquote, the qualitative assessment of being Sharia compliant, meaning that they don't sell alcohol, they're not in tobacco, armaments, pornography, casinos, cannabis, etc. Fine. And then they meet the quantitative metrics that make it Sharia compliant. But I said that's not good enough anymore. Because just because a company may not have a qualitative item that is against Islam, but if they are still supporting the killing of us, then that doesn't make sense. You can't have our money and then support killing us too. It doesn't make sense anymore. This is where we need to make reformations and changes. And this is something that we're advocating for within Islamic banking and finance. Another thing, my brothers and sisters, when it comes to economic strength, is on nurturing entrepreneurship. Look at how many corporations there were when people put up even a small post of support for Palestine, put up an image of a watermelon, and they got sacked, or they got muzzled, or they got sidelined, or they got delegated to the back ends where it don't matter. We have to foster in an environment of entrepreneurship, a successful entrepreneurship that allows Muslim businesses to grow, that allows Muslims to be independent, allows Muslims to be able to be in a position to not only donate and contribute, but also have the freedom to say what we need to say when it is the truth. And I'm not saying that we start making up stories and making up conspiracy theories and trash talking things. That ain't true, because that is not the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But when we have independence of our own fortunes and of our own fate, it gives us freedom in a larger capacity that we think. And when we have that independence, then we hire people to work with us. That changes the fate of others. That's why it is so important. Yesterday, Sheikh Naved was talking about the Ashara Mubashara, the 10 that were blessed Jannah on this earth. Out of the 10, 9 of them were successful businessmen. There was only one who wasn't, and who was humble from his economic well-being, and that was Hazrat Ali, karramallahu wajh. Just him. Everyone else was financially strong. And this is important for us to know, my brothers and sisters. It is time for us that there's chambers of commerce to bring Muslim businesses together, and again, not to just work with Muslims only and leave everyone aside, but also showcase that we have these groups that can advocate, economic businesses that can advocate. Imagine a strong Muslim chamber of commerce that then goes to Ottawa and says, hey man, we as a Muslim community need halal financing. What are you going to do for us? This is the amount of votes that we represent. What are you going to do for us? This is the economic strength that we bring. What are you going to do for us? These are important things. And then when we pool our success together, it allows us to rise, which is what's happening, my brothers and sisters. In adversity, it creates necessity. And then now we see these alternatives coming out that are Muslim or ethical and supporting the causes that are fair. The other aspect I tell people is that to create generational wealth also is that we pool our resources. Being someone who's involved in Islamic finance, real estate development, and commercial real estate license, I tell people, let's pool our money together. Let's pool it and buy assets. You can't foreclose on a shopping strip that is bought 100% equity. So when times go up and down, you have no bank debt. How are you going to foreclose on it? This is what brings strength. When we have visions, we ain't not only looking at the short-term benefit, but we're looking at the long-term appreciation, and then how we exit and then use that cash, reinvest, and then create generational wealth over and over. This is how we are going to gain economic stability, and through adversity, this comes about, my brothers and sisters. Do not ever think that we don't have that power. One of the things that I said in my keynote address in Bahrain was that to the Islamic banks there, I said, you guys focus only on the Middle East. When you have 2 million Muslims in Canada that want halal finance. And I said, do you know the nominal GDP of 2 million Muslims in Canada is more than all of Bahrain combined, plus $40 billion on top. Just the 2 million Muslims in Canada. We have a GDP, nominal GDP, more valuable than all of Bahrain. We have to make these cases for people to understand why they need to support us. 2 million Muslims just in Canada equates to 74 million Muslims in Pakistan, 24 million Muslims in Bangladesh. Look at the multiplier effect. So before I move on to my last point, it is of absolute importance that we create an ecosystem of success, mentorship of success, so that when we are successful, society is successful. And when society is successful, they will recognize that, man, these Muslims, they do great things. These Muslims, they contribute. These Muslims aren't sitting on the sidelines, but these are people who actually are the economic backbone, which small businesses are 80% of the backbone of Canada. And now my last point, my brothers and sisters. Which is the most important. Is that when we see the horrors that are happening, we can potentially feel helpless, but not hopeless. And I know sometimes it's really hard for us to make sense of what's transpiring. But genocide and war crimes and all this that we are seeing is something that the Ummah has always seen. May it be from the Mongol invasions, may it be to the Spanish and the Portuguese Inquisition, may it be the orchestrated famine of the Bengal that the Churchill administration did, where 3 million people in Bengal were starved to death. May it be in Rwanda, may it be what Leopold did with the Hutu and the Tutsis and so on and so forth. May it be the Rohingya. This is something that has been part of the Ummah. What we need to do is reconnect our heart with Allah and reconnect our love with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My brothers and sisters, we have to be a people who are hopeful and of hope. And I'm a person who is always wanting to give the benefit of doubt of hope, because our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was habitually hopeful. He said the worst day of his life was Ta'if. And when he was beaten and abused and forlorn and harassed and cheated and manipulated and degraded and maliciously felt and maliciously undertaken, he felt helpless? No. He just made a dua, a sad dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which you all know from the seerah. And then when the angels of the mountains came, they said, when the message came that the angels of the mountains can crush the people of Ta'if, then what did Rahmatul lil Alameen state? He said, no, for it may be from their progeny believers will come. That our Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even in his adversity, even on a day that he considered the lowest, even then he was hopeful of the future. And when having the opportunity to destroy and disseminate from the angels of the mountains, he said, no, I have hope. I have hope. And that is what we need, my brothers and sisters. I know that sometimes we think that these are lofty goals, but it's not. Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Remembering God brings contentment, calmness, comfort, peace to the hearts. And when we're down and out, we need to hold on to that rope. We need to hold on to our Lord. We need to hold on to the actions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Never forget that Allah's sifat of His 99 names, there's two that I want to mention. One is Al-Fattah. And Al-Fattah is what, my brothers and sisters? It is the opener Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens doors that were closed and closes doors that were open. He facilitates an opening. Even a closing of a door is an opening for you. And an opening of a door is an opening for you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best in what is transpiring and when that door will open. And then His other sifat is al-muqaddim and al-muakhir, the one who brings forward, and then the one who delays. Just because we may not be seeing a resolution, just because we may not be seeing a ceasefire, just because we may not seeing a stoppage, does not mean our Lord does not know what's happening. And sometimes it is that when we understand these attributes of Allah, that when He delays giving or He expedites giving, in everything there is khair. And it is easier said than done when we aren't being bombarded on. But I will tell you one thing. I was at a talk emceeing Mansour Showman and his wife, Suzanne. And Suzanne said, don't have pity on the Palestinians. Don't have pity. They are firm in their conviction. They don't need your pity. They believe in their Allah and they have put their trust in their Lord. Make your du'as, but don't have pity. They are firm in their belief. And if these people are firm in their belief, then you and I need to become firmaments in ours as well. We cannot be hopeless. We need to be hopeful. We cannot allow our sadness to betray the deaths of Hind Rajab. We need to be people that create this fire and yearn for change, my brothers and sisters. Change does not come overnight. Change is something that takes time. If change was overnight, the person who is most entitled to it was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Medina was not given to him on a platter. The Ummah was not given to him in a platter. Conversions was not given to him in a platter. He was abused in every capacity. And we need to re-engage and reconnect with the seerah to recognize what you and I need to do. And sometimes when I speak to the keyboard warriors who go buck wild on social media and just think that that's what's needed, social media is good. But what's more important, my brothers and sisters, is you wake up for tahajjud and pray. I will guarantee you that that is more important to the people who are oppressed than just tweeting things. Because that is a harder thing to do, but that is a spiritual connection with our Lord for the Ummah. In Yemen, when the Afghanistan occupation was taking place by the Russians, in Jordan, they would wake up and pray tahajjud with the dedication of the tahajjud to go to Afghanistan. They would do this as a mutual. How often do you and I do that? I am not saying that social media and promotion of it doesn't matter. It does. But doing good from a spiritual perspective also is what changes the conditions of a people. And I will conclude with this story. I went over time. I had a few other points. But I will conclude. Sometimes we think things are impossible, but they're not. And sometimes we get despondent when we don't see those changes within a short time frame or within our lifetimes. Sheikh Ahmadu Bamba of the Senegal, Khadim al-Rasul, he was a non-violent freedom fighter for Senegal. It wasn't Gandhi who invented this, or Martin Luther King Jr. It was our own scholastic tradition He was a freedom fighter of non-violence against the French. He would be non-violent and tell the congregation to be non-violent to such a degree that they would throw him into jails, and then there would be unrest. People want him out. He would forgive them. They would take him back. The French throw him into jails. He would come, forgive them. They would come back, to the point that his non-violence was so strong. He wasn't passive. He was just non-violent. And then it led to the independence of the Senegalese. And we have this in our tradition. When Hazrat Musa, my final point, when Hazrat Musa was being pursued by the Fir'aun, and when he went to the Red Sea, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have made it simple and decimated the Red Sea, made it dry, made it the Sahara, or allowed him to walk on water like Jesus. But he didn't. Because sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make our struggles vanish. Yet sometimes Allah gives us strength to walk through our problems. And that is exactly what Hazrat Musa showed when the Red Sea was parted. He walked through his problem to the end, to become to a place of safety where he was successful. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant the Ummah the strength to alleviate immediately, and also to give us the strength to walk through our problems. Be hopeful, my brothers and sisters. We are from the Ummah of Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the most beautiful, the most resilient, the most magnanimous creation of Allah. And we have that claim that we're from His fabric when it comes to an Ummah. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Keep your chin up.